So, Happy New Year, Happy Old Year. What makes this New Year? Just our mind. Yeah. If you didn't have a calendar, you wouldn't know what day was New Year because all the days are the same. So, we might as well make all the days good days. Okay. So, we're here to have a little vacation with Vajrasattva over the weekend. Yeah. So Vajrasattva is actually all around us, even physically. You can think of all the snowflakes as small Vajrasattvas. And if we get snow today and tomorrow, just think of Vajrasattva, just like in the sadhana, falling, coming. And, you can think of it coming, all the snowflakes coming in your body. They're going to come outside your body, but the same purification. And it's a nice way really to remember the practice when you're going around doing your daily life activities. Even when you put salt or sugar on your food, you can think Vajrasattvas. Yeah. It's very helpful. It sounds funny, but it reminds you of the Dharma. And that is always very useful to our minds to be reminded of. So it's now 2022. Last night, New Year's Eve, people got very excited. And today they slept late and will watch football games. And we're still in samsara. So, New Year or no New Year, samsara continues on. And what propels it is the ignorance, the afflictions in our own mind, and the karma that we create due to them. So again, New Year or no New Year, if we want happiness, we have to counteract the ignorance and the afflictions. There's no way to sweet talk them into leaving us alone. There's no way to appease them so that they back off. We have to see them clearly, know them for what they are, and wishing for our own happiness and the happiness of others, not follow them. So saying the words is easy, but we need some help in actually doing it. And this is where Vajrasattva comes in. But Vajrasattva doesn't say, oh yes, I'll take care of it all for you. He says, if you want my help, first thing you have to do is have the aspiration to take care of all other living beings, because that's the dearest thing in my own heart, Vajrasattva says. And so let's generate that bodhicitta attitude that wants not just to take care of sentient beings suffering in this life, but wants to do whatever we can to help free them from samsara and help them to attain full awakening. So let's make that our motivation for this weekend and for our entire life. So I was reading someone's request to take refuge, and one of the first questions that was asked was, what do you usually take refuge in? And the person answered, my partner. Yeah. And I think that's pretty common in samsara, you know, a partner or another family member or a best friend. And we think that person is the one who will protect us, who will always be there for us. Yeah. But that person is impermanent. Their mind is under the influence of afflictions and karma. And we already know that whatever comes together must separate. So taking refuge in other samsaric beings is not going to really fulfill our need. And so that's why we turn to the Buddha Dharma Sangha, and especially in this retreat, to one manifestation of the Buddha's omniscient mind, Vajrasattva. Okay. Vajrasattva is going to be a much more reliable friend. He's not moody. Yeah, our regular friends are moody, aren't they? Yeah, and you're never quite sure what you're going to get when you meet them each day, because they may be in a good mood or they may be in a bad mood. Okay, but Vajrasattva's mood is quite constant, and his attitude towards us is always one of keeping our best interest and the best interest of all living beings in his heart. Okay, when ordinary beings approach us, there's always a little bit of, there's attachment, and so what can they get out of us and what can we get out of them? Whereas with Vajrasattva, he's not trying to get anything out of us. Okay. Not even those tangerines and apple that we offered on the altar. He doesn't care about that. Yeah, if we miss his birthday, he's not going to cry. Okay. If we miss our anniversary of, learning Vajrasattva practice, he's not going to accuse us of being unfaithful. So, establishing a relationship with the holy beings is quite important in our own life, and we're the one who is responsible for doing that. Okay, and how do we establish a relationship with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and meditational deities? It's through our practice. Yeah, that's the way we establish the relationship. And it really is, we may think of it, I'm doing this practice, it's something outside of myself that I'm doing. But we're actually establishing a relationship with a Buddha, okay? So there's the external Buddha that Vajrasattva is, a being who attained awakening in the form of Vajrasattva. And actually there's many beings who attain awakening in the form of Vajrasattva. But we're also connecting with the Vajrasattva that we are going to become in the future. Yeah. And so that Vajrasattva is the culmination of realizations of a Buddha that we want to have in the future and that we are creating the causes to have right now. So, turning to Vajrasattva for refuge is also turning to one part of ourselves that we very often ignore or don't appreciate, and learning to establish a relationship with that part of ourselves that has really noble aspirations, that has wisdom, that has compassion. Yeah. And these attributes are still in their baby phases in us now, but we can make them grow through establishing the relationship with the external Vajrasattva, who's already enlightened, and the Vajrasattva we will become in the future. Okay. So those are two ways that we can think of Vajrasattva, as an actual being and as the Buddha will become. And another way to see Vajrasattva, which is very helpful, is to see Vajrasattva as the embodiment of all of the excellent qualities. Okay? And seeing Vajrasattva that way, as a collection of excellent qualities, helps us to avoid grasping Vajrasattva as inherently existent. Okay? Because we tend to see other people as, okay, there's their qualities and their body, but then there's a person there, a real person. And actually, there's just all these qualities and independence upon these qualities. The name I or person or Vajrasattva or whoever it is imputed. Yeah. But there's no separate person somewhere mixed in with those qualities, mixed in with our psychophysical aggregates. So if we practice seeing Vajrasattva as the embodiment of these qualities and really focus on what the qualities are, and then the name Vajrasattva is imputed on that basis of imputation, yeah, then that helps us to avoid grasping an inherent existence. And it helps us avoid thinking of Vajrasattva as some kind of God. Especially those of us raised in a Judeo-Christian culture, yeah, where there's some supreme being, yeah, and you just out there, and you your job is to propitiate that being and please them, and so on, and then they judge you and determine what happens to you. And Vajrasattva is not like that, okay? So we have to be very clear when we're meditating on Vajrasattva. Don't confuse the Judeo-Christian notion of a God who's a creator and controller and manager of the universe with Vajrasattva, who is a Buddha, okay? They're two different kinds of concepts, yeah, of what a holy being is. And this is quite important, because if we confuse and think of Vajrasattva as God and pray to Vajrasattva like we used to pray to God when we were kids, then, do we really understand what the Buddha taught if we have that kind of way of relating to the Buddhas and other holy beings? Yeah. So we want to really shift that. And, there is a merely labeled person, merely designated person, Vajrasattva. But when you search for some person that he is, there's nobody there. Okay. And that's how we exist too. Despite the fact that we feel like there's a real me somewhere floating around in here. Yeah. We feel like there's that. But when we search for what the word I refers to, what are you going to find inside your body and mind? That is what the word I refers to. Yeah. And when we get into, you can see the I grasping very clearly when we get into a thing of, I want to be happy. I'm so tired of suffering. I want happiness. Do you ever have that desperate feeling of, I want happiness? I can't, it's like, I can't stand this suffering. I want happiness. I can't stand suffering, And that I, at that point, feels so real. Yeah. I mean, and it's so big, it feels like it even goes beyond our body and it just consumes the whole universe, reverberating with, I want happiness. Yeah. But when we question, who is that I? What are we going to point to? Yeah. So there is a person there, but we can't find it. And there is Vajrasattva there, but we can't find Vajrasattva with ultimate analysis. Okay? So this is this combination of emptiness and dependent arising. Yeah. There's a dependently arising Vajrasattva, but it's empty of an inherently existent Vajrasattva. And the same for us. There's a dependently arising me, but there's no inherently existent me. But we still feel like there's an inherently existent me. Yeah. Because if I'm not all that stuff, then what am I? Then we go to the extreme of nihilism. We go from grasping an inherently existent I, to saying, well, if that doesn't exist, then I don't exist. Flip to nihilism. Yeah. But you exist. I mean, we're sitting here in this room, aren't we? We exist. We just don't exist in the way we think we exist. Okay? But we tend to go from the extreme of, there's a real me, I'm sure of it. And it wants I want what I want when I want it. And I deserve it. And everybody should do what I want. Otherwise, I'm going to freak out. Okay, so there's that one. And then when we search for it and don't find it, then we flip to the other extreme of, then I don't exist. And then we freak out even more. Yeah. I don't exist. But that's the inherently existent I screaming, I don't exist. Yeah. And then this terror of, I don't exist. And both of those are extremes. Yeah. Neither of those are the way things actually are. Yeah. So that's why it's helpful to come back, There's a collection of qualities and independence on that. The Vajrasattva is designated. Yeah. There's a body and mind here, independence on that. I is designated. Mm-hmm. And leave it like that. Okay. But that self-grasping is quite sneaky. Yeah. So we have to keep working at it, keep reminding ourselves. Mm-hmm. And watch when it comes up during the day. Yeah. Especially, because there's I and then there's mine. So mine is kind of the aspect of, it's an I, it's a person that makes things mine. But then we see other things as mine. And if those other things or people, something happens to them, then the I comes very strong. Okay? So I love my, my kitty, my kitty. Actually, all 4 kitties. Yeah. But I love them in order of the one who pays most attention to me, and not the one who scratches. Okay? I have to admit it. Yeah. And I love my family, and I love this thermos. I take it everywhere with me. It's so useful. Yeah, who wants to be caught anywhere without a thermos? Yeah, I mean, every time I sit down here, first thing I do is pick up the thermos and take a drink. My thermos. And my book. Yeah, my clothes. My house. Yeah, all of this is mine. Mine. Okay, we share it, but it's really mine. And I should be able to govern everything that happens in it, not you. Okay? So whenever something that we consider mine is threatened or something happens to it, the sense of I we have comes up very strong. Yeah. The kitty who usually purrs scratched me, or she died, oh no, or my house burned down. Okay. Now, some of the people who've actually had this happen to them in their life, they're going to say, stop making fun of us. I'm not making fun, okay? I'm trying to make some examples of how that I manifests in our life, and through attachment to that I, and seeing that I as more important than anything else, then we suffer. Okay? When other people get scratched by their kitties, when their pets die, I do not get so overwhelmed with misery as I do when it's mine. Yeah. In Colorado, there were just horrible fires, and many people lost their homes. I think over 10,000 people had to be evacuated, and over 1,000 homes were just burned like that. And, I'm sorry that happened to them, but no reaction like if this place burned and I had to evacuate. You can see right there, the favoritism towards I, and how that grasping at a real I makes us suffer. Yeah, because the more we're attached to something, the more we cling on to it as mine. Then when something happens to it, which it surely will, because everything changes. Nothing is going to last forever. So as long as we cling, when something happens, then we freak out, So my thermos looks really permanent, and it's strong. Look how strong it is. But if something happens to my thermos, yeah, and I am on a transoceanic flight without my thermos, there's going to be a lot of suffering. Yeah. And I'll write everybody about how my thermos got lost before I got on the flight, and I had to do this whole flight drinking out of little paper cups that they don't even bring around when you're thirsty. They bring them around when you're asleep. Okay, so, just to see how much that grasping narrows our perspective. Yeah, we can barely see other people only in terms of how they relate to me, and everything is how it relates to me. So, there's a whole huge infinite universe with countless sentient beings. And I'm going through life like this. Okay. And of course, when, I'm like this, and the one thing that I see right in front of me all the time is me, I, my, and mine, then I'm going to be quite miserable. Yeah. And I'm going to create more causes to be reborn in samsara, and so here we are. 2022, still in samsara. Okay? So, what we're trying to do through the Vajrasattva practice is see what is reality. Yeah, that was the big question. There was some kind of musical or film when we were young, where the big question is, what is reality? Anybody remember what it was? Yeah. I'm just trying to share another oldie but goodie with some of you. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. It was kind of like a musical or something. Hair. Yeah, Hair. You don't know Hair?
I do know Hair. I don't know what is reality is part of that.
Yeah, I think it was part of it in that. Or it's meaning of life, something like that. Yeah. So how did we get off on that? So,
What is reality?
yes, what is reality? That's what we're trying to see when we do the Vajrasattva practice. Okay? And trying to understand it. And so, in order to see reality, we need to get rid of a lot of the obstacles that we have. So, one of the big obstacles we have is that whole compilation of negative karma that we've created. Yeah, all those first few links of different sets of 12 links that we've accumulated. Yeah, and all the other karma that's not propelling karma that pushes us into a rebirth, but completing karma that that determines or influences what we will experience in that rebirth. Yeah. And so we need to do some big purification about that. And of course, meditating on emptiness is the ultimate purification. Seeing reality is the ultimate purification. But before we can even do that, then there's these other methods to use to help us cleanse our mind and really get rid of a lot of the garbage. Okay, it's kind of like our mind is like a garbage dump. You ever been in a city in a third world country where there's a garbage dump outside the town? Yeah. And the garbage is just, overflowing completely, in a whole big area. Yeah. So our mind is kind of like that. And when there's a lot of garbage, you can't see very clearly. It's like when your glasses are dirty, you can't see. So the Vajrasattva practice is very much one of trying to cleanse a lot of this gross stuff away so that we can begin to see things clearly. Yeah. So Vajrasattva is our friend in helping us do this. Yeah. And this is very important because especially, people who came from a Judeo-Christian idea of God, if you make Vajrasattva into God, then what's Vajrasattva going to be doing? He's going to be outside looking at you, judging you. Yeah? Because that we're imputing the Judeo-Christian concept of God onto Vajrasattva. Vajrasattva is not sitting outside looking at us, judging us. Vajrasattva is an enlightened Buddha. Do enlightened Buddhas judge sentient beings? Yeah, is that a quality of enlightenment, that you judge other sentient beings and that you send them to hell or you send them to heaven? Or that you create suffering for them? Yeah. Is any of that a quality of a Buddha? Do you work, for 3 countless great eons to become a Buddha, and then all you do is sit there and judge other people and send them to hell or heaven, or create problems for them to test them? No, so don't put that on Vajrasattva. Okay, remember, Vajrasattva's on your side. He's trying to help us. And he doesn't judge. So it can be kind of a new experience for us to try and open up and have a dialogue with somebody who is not going to judge us, and somebody who we trust in that way. Because when we've been taking refuge in other living beings, we can't always trust them not to judge. Yeah, so we try and be open, but we always, there's certain things we do not want to acknowledge. Yeah. Because if other people know them, then they'll use that against me. Okay, and that attitude keeps us tied up, doesn't it? It makes those things that we don't want to admit more powerful because we have to put so much energy into concealing them. Yeah, it ties up a lot of our energy. Whereas when we realize those things they're not inherently existent. Yeah. Yes, we may have done egregious things, but they can be purified. And our having done that does not make us a bad person. Okay, the action and the person are different. So we can talk about what we've done or what we've experienced. And we're acknowledging it, but at the same time, we're knowing that we are not bad people. Yeah. And we can purify those things. And those things that we did, that we are trying so desperately to stuff away and not admit to anybody, are not happening now. So why are we so afraid of them? They're not happening now. Yeah. What's happening is our memory. Okay. Is our memory the same as the actual action? No. Yeah. A memory is just, you are having conceptual images in our mind. But that event is not happening now. Okay, so we don't need to be afraid of it, and we can open up and trust Vajrasattva and acknowledge whatever that was. And Vajrasattva's on our side, and he's going to help us to let go of that. So whatever negativity is still hanging around from our action or from something other people did with us as the object, all of that is getting cleansed away. Yeah? So that we don't need to spend our time trying to sequester it so that nobody knows. Yeah? Because all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas already know. We're not keeping anything from them. Okay, the Buddhas are omniscient. So why are we trying to keep something from them? That's ridiculous. Okay. So it can be quite a new experience for us to open up in that way, to have that level of transcendent, not transcendence, transparence. Okay. But try it. And maybe you can't open everything up instantly, completely, but do it little by little, little by little, and develop some confidence. And remember, Vajrasattva, when he's on the crown of your head, or if you visualize him in front of you, he's looking at you with compassion. And you have to visualize him looking at you with compassion. And some people may find that difficult, because their first thing is, if other people are really looking at me, they're going to see how awful I am. They're not going to look at me with compassion. So already our whole MO, our whole way of approaching other living beings is with suspicion, because they're going to judge me. I'm not safe. I'm not safe. They're going to judge me. I can't open up. They'll use it against me. Okay. All of that is coming from our own mind. It's not coming from outside. Vajrasattva, remember, he's sitting with the Vajra and bell this way. Yeah, he's not sitting with his hand on his hip saying, "Tell me the truth. Did you steal the bubble gum from your sister?" Yeah. So we don't need to act like that. Okay? And when we were, 4 years old, stealing the bubble gum from our sister, it may have been a big thing in the family, okay? Because our parents were trying to teach us what the word steal means, because we didn't understand it. Yeah, when you're a baby, you don't understand the word steal. Everything is there and you want to touch it. And there's no idea of ownership. Can you imagine that? Not having an idea of ownership. Yeah. And when you're a baby, people are okay if you grab everything. They don't say, "That's mine." It's an interesting thing, isn't it? And then we develop this idea of an I who is the owner of mine, and other people have this I, and they own things. And then the tug of war starts, okay? But just being able, to trust Vajrasattva, and okay, here's the most awful thing I did. And, and like I say, you don't have to start with the most awful thing you did. You can start with stealing the bubble gum when you were 5 years old. Do something simple and then work up to it. But I find it just helpful. Just, okay, here it is. Yeah, and I'm not going to deny it. And I want to purify, because I don't want to do that again. Or if something happened to me, I don't want to be involved in that situation, and I don't want to hate the people who did something to me. Yeah, I don't want to go through my life hating people. I don't want to go through my life fearing people. Okay, so I'm asking Vajrasattva's help to wash away the anger, the hatred, the fear. And Vajrasattva's kind and he helps us. Yeah. He doesn't like go, oh, I'm getting off your head and going somewhere else. I'm not going to help you. And then Vajrasattva stands up and walks over to somebody else's head and sits down. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay. So this is quite a beautiful practice when we can ease ourselves into it, and things will come up. Yeah, you can't really keep everything hidden from a Buddha because they already know it. So when we try and hide stuff, we're really keeping it from ourselves, and that just takes a whole lot of energy. So, we establish a relationship with Vajrasattva, and he becomes our best friend and a trusted friend. And one that, when we ask for advice, always gives us good advice. Yeah, not a friend who gives us bad advice, but he gives us good advice. And then, when you've heard a lot of teachings, then when you run into a problem and you need some help, you do a quick mental call, 911, to Vajrasattva. Vajra says, yeah, what do you need this time? No, he doesn't say that. Yeah. And we say, Vajrasattva, my mind is going berserky. I am overwhelmed by attachment. I am overwhelmed by spite. I am overwhelmed by dissatisfaction or loneliness or whatever it is. Help me. And when you've heard a lot of teachings, then something comes in your mind. This is what I need to practice right now. Okay? So Vajrasattva is on the other end of the 911 line and gives you good advice. And then you practice it. Yeah, you practice it. And that's very helpful, because then whatever is going on in your life, you have access to what is actually your own wisdom. But we're thinking of it as Vajrasattva's wisdom, because we're very used to everything being outside of us. So, this is a way to kind of get us to access our own wisdom by thinking that Vajrasattva is giving us the teaching on what to practice. It's very helpful to do that. And I usually find that when I do that, when my mind is just going, I get very short and sweet advice, in the form of, keep it simple, dear. Yeah. Because what am I doing when my mind is all confused and angry or filled with desire or unsatisfied? What am I doing? I'm elaborating on things, making things better than they are, making things worse than they are, projecting, elaborating this mental factor of distorted conception or inappropriate attention. And I'm just fabricating and then getting, all upset about what I fabricated. Yeah. And then, This is kind of one of Lama Yeshe's. I mean, Lama Yeshe would come out with these really pithy things like, keep it simple, dear. Because he called everybody dear. Okay. But it's like, oh, yeah, keep it simple. Stop the proliferating mind. Stop telling myself lies. Like the lies I tell myself, like that impermanent things are actually permanent, that things that are the nature of dukkha are actually going to bring me real pleasure. The things that are foul are in fact beautiful, and that things that lack a self have a self. Yeah. So that's part of, what I'm fabricating that then I get afraid of. I fabricate it on somebody, I overestimate the good qualities of somebody. Now they're permanent. Now they're pleasurable. Now they're pure. There's a real self in them. I got to make this relationship with that person. Yeah. And then I suffer because they don't look at me, or they look at me in the way I don't want to be looked at. Or they look at me a whole lot and I'm tired of it already. Yeah. Or they also look at other people, not just me. Or they look at me and tell me I'm fat and that I should look different than I look. And I should be different than I am. So I suffer. I fabricate and then project it outward, bump up against whatever I've created someone or an opportunity or a situation or an object to be, and then I bump up against it and, I'm not happy. Okay, so those are some of the big, elaborations we put out there, but then there's all the other ones, like, not just, oh, I'm seeing everything as permanent. Yeah. What else is new? But this thermos is really permanent, stable, and it is mine forever. And it was given to me by my mother, so it's special. Yeah. My mother's love is permeating this purple or pink or whatever color this is permeating this. So when I hold my thermos, I think of my mother. Do you have things like that? Where you think of somebody else that you love when you have that object? Yeah. And then, somebody on the plane runs over my thermos with that cart. Their cart with the water that's supposed to go in the thermos, and the cart goes on the thermos, and my thermos is shattered. Okay. So, to look and see how we project, and then, we create a reality that isn't there and then react to it. So Vajrasattva, when Vajrasattva says, keep it simple, dear, then, or maybe Vajrasattva says, remember, it's impermanent. Or maybe Vajrasattva says, it's not just you in this universe. Oh, God. I have to be reminded of that. Well, yes, sometimes, yes. Vajrasattva needs to remind me that I'm not the only person in this universe. My parents told me that too, but I somehow didn't internalize it. Okay. So, take the time when you're doing the meditation to build up this relationship with Vajrasattva. Yeah. During the medicine, people who are doing the medicine Buddha retreat in the winter, then develop this similar kind of relationship with medicine Buddha. Yeah. And don't think, well, Vajrasattva, I know, won't judge me, but medicine Buddha, he might. Yeah. Medicine Buddha might look and say, I told you to take your vitamins when you were little and you didn't listen and now you're sick. Yeah. I don't think medicine Buddha's going to say that. You know what medicine Buddha might say to me? Because this eye is, what's the term for it? It's a very weak eye, so it's nowhere near 20/20 and there's no way to correct it, okay? But when I was little, they had a way to correct it. You know how they correct weak eyes? You wear a patch over your eye. That's what they wanted me to do. I had no intention of looking like a pirate in grammar school. I refused to wear a patch over my eye. Weak eye or not weak eye, I was not wearing a patch. And so my whole life I have a weak eye. So do you think Medicine Buddha is going to look at me and say, kiddo, I told you to wear that patch when you were little. Why didn't you listen? No. Medicine Buddha is going to look and say, I've been trying to lead this one to awakening for a long time. And she doesn't do even the simplest thing I tell her to do that would be beneficial for her. But I'm still going to keep trying. I'm not going to give up. Yeah. And so the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas keep trying to help us. And we keep saying, no, I'm not going to wear the patch on my eye. No, I'm not going to give up what I want. No, I'm not going to do what I don't want to do. And I can't stand when other people don't do what they're supposed to do. And I'm not going to give up being mad at them because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Even though they don't know what they're supposed to do. But they do know what they're supposed to do, or they should know what they're supposed to do, and they're not doing it. And I can't control them. Okay. So we just have to, they're the Buddhas. They don't give up on us. They don't, say, ciao, kiddo. I've been trying for a long, countless eons to help you, and I'm fed up already. And they walk out. They don't do that. They keep trying. So we have to kind of keep trying. Now that we have this kind of rebirth, it's quite a special rebirth. We have to keep trying to open up and connect with them. Yeah, because when you're born as a kitty cat, or a flea, or a gopher, or an anteater, or a kangaroo, or a hellbing, or a preta, or spaced out in the formless absorption realms, you can't create that kind of relationship. So this is our chance. Okay, so questions, comments? Yeah.
There are 123 people tuning in, and there are 4 questions.
Okay.
So the first is, can a person do Vajrasattva practice without any tantric initiations?
Mm-hmm. You just keep Vajrasattva either in front of you or on your head. And at the end, they melt into light and dissolve into you and kind of settle at your heart. But you don't visualize yourself as Vajrasattva.
Okay, next is, so in the meditation, we purify our body, speech, and mind, imagining Vajrasattva is in us, instead of purifying our body with our own powers? Is this because we are not able to acknowledge our weakness?
So when we're doing the practice, Vajrasattva is above our head, or in some sadhanas, he's in front of us, okay? And we imagine the nectar, which is the nature, it's blissful wisdom nectar, it's the nature of compassion, and that is flowing into us, okay? When we say that we're purifying our body, okay, it means that we are purifying the karmic imprints, the karmic seeds of negative actions that we've done physically with our body. That's what it means, okay? When you're sick, you can also imagine the light and nectar from Vajrasattva going to the area where you're ill, or if it's painful, it goes there, and you can imagine it healing that area. But don't. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that person is thinking, but try and follow what I just explained.
So regarding selflessness, once we open ourselves up, we become less attached to ourselves, and does letting go then become easier through this practice? Is this how this practice helps us to practice emptiness as well?
Yes, and yes. You've got it.
All right, the fourth. The way I understand the practice works is that by repeatedly engaging the practice with close attention, it brings a more embodied understanding of the three principal aspects of the path. Is this so?
Doing the purification removes obstacles to our understanding the three principal aspects of the path. But to develop those understandings in our own mind, we have to meditate on them. Okay, they're not going to appear magically. So we have to do the meditations to generate the determination to be free. Do the whole series of meditations to generate bodhicitta. Apply the reasonings to realize emptiness. Okay, so it's not just purification.
There are two more, but I want to check if people here have questions too.
Anybody here? Yeah.
Introduction yesterday, there was this question: what's the difference between healing and purifying? How would you answer that?
Between what?
Healing and purifying.
They probably come to kind of the same thing, just, yeah, depending how you look at it. I mean, different. Vajrasattva would emphasize the purifying aspect. Medicine Buddha would emphasize the healing aspect. But when you really plumb both of them, they kind of come to the same point. There was also a question from yesterday about that are the Vajrasattva prostrations another version of the Vajrasattva practice, or are they another option, or are they a different level of practice? Usually when we're doing the Vajrasattva meditation, especially if you're doing it as a preliminary practice and counting the mantra, we do it seated and Vajrasattva is on our head, and we do the recitation that way. But it's also very nice, during the break times, or even you're not in a retreat situation, you want to do prostrations, you can visualize Vajrasattva, prostrate, and say the mantra when you're prostrating.
All right.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like I have less of a fear of being judged, but more of a fear of the recognition that, oh yeah, I'm going to be here for a while longer in cyclic existence. Is there a way to recognize my own faults without getting so caught up in the consequence of the karma and being stuck in samsara itself?
Okay. When we meditate on karma and so on, and we see the disadvantages of destructive karma, the purpose is to invigorate us so we want to be free of samsara. So if you're meditating on that and then just saying, I'm afraid of being in samsara for a long time, and you get stuck just with being afraid, then you haven't gotten to the conclusion that Vajrasattva wants you to get to. The conclusion, is if I don't practice, I will be in samsara a long time. But now I find the method to practice. I want to get out of samsara. So now I'm going to put my energies joyfully, enthusiastically, willingly, and voluntarily to, create the causes for liberation. Yeah, because just sitting and thinking, I'm going to be in samsara for a long time, where does that get you? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be in samsara a long time. I'm going to be in samsara a long time. I'm going to be in samsara. That's your new mantra. I'm going to be in samsara a long time. Yeah. Well, if you think like that, then it's true. You will be in samsara a long time. But that's not the conclusion that J. Rinpoche wanted when he wrote the three principal aspects of the path. It was for us to, develop our courage and our enthusiasm to really engage in the practice so we won't be in samsara for a long time.
Do we purify ourselves depending on our own powers and abilities ultimately? Can you elaborate on this?
They say that it's kind of like what do you say? A joint effort. Yeah, one of those projects that is a joint effort between Vajrasattva and you. Yeah. So, there are holy beings, and they do wish us well, and they do try and help us. Yeah. But the amount of help we can receive from them is dependent on the amount that we're open. So, we have to help ourselves open, help ourselves purify, but at the same time, excuse me, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are trying to help. Yeah. But Buddhism is not a thing of, I'm hopeless, I can't do anything, so I'm just going to pray to Vajrasattva and let him take care of it. Yeah, no, Buddhism is very much a thing of, I've got to be responsible for my own welfare and for the welfare of others.
Why do we change between different deities for winter retreat from year to year? Isn't it better to keep to one?
What we do here at the Abbey is we change the deity because we're reaching out to the public, and there may be different people that prefer they sync more with one deity rather than another. But in terms of your own practice, yeah, if there's one deity that you feel an especially strong connection with, do that practice every day. Don't just do a long retreat and then, okay, I did my 100,000 Vajrasattva, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, never have to recite that mantra again, forget about Vajrasattva. Now, Medicine Buddha is going to be my favorite. And then you meditate on Medicine Buddha for, 1 month, 2 years, whatever it is. Okay, I recited the mantra for that, been there, done that, bye Medicine Buddha. I'm done with you, on to the next one. Okay, that's these people who have serial partners? Yeah, you fall in love with one person, you break up with them, and the next day you're in love with somebody else. It's like that, If you want to develop a relationship with the Buddha, you don't treat them like that, You do the retreat, and after the retreat, you don't just stop the practice cold and go on to another one. Yeah, you do maybe a modified, abbreviated version of the practice, or if you really resonate with that deity, you continue using that one as your main practice. And so, maybe let's say Vajrasattva is your main practice. You do that every day. But then it's fine to do Medicine Buddha retreat too. You still do a short Vajrasattva practice while you're doing your Medicine Buddha retreat. Okay.